Hey everybody, this is Athletes and Antiquities, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about correlation versus causation in the Pokemon hobby. So this video is all going to be about people's overconfidence in their ability to predict a market and influence a market. Because a lot of the times, if people buy a card or a product and it goes up in value, they pat themselves on the back, but sometimes we get overly cocky in our ability to do that, and we start to lose sight of the fact that the question of were we really just a genius with that decision, or were we just a small boat in this massive current and we just got dragged in the positive direction, and we didn't really influence that decision at all, just the entire market improved, so therefore our decisions seemed very smart. That's a really hard thing to kind of put stock in, like how much of my decisions are really my own, how many of the outcomes are really my own decisions and how many of them are just from external factors. And it really has to, makes you ask that question: did you really predict what happened, or did you just blindly purchase it, and that external factor I was talking about made your decision profitable? Because in this hobby, you can make the wrong decision and have a good outcome, and you can also make the right decision and have a bad outcome. If you look at a set of data and you analyze that set of data and make the best decision based on the available data you had, and it didn't turn out well, it's not because you're stupid. It's just because there was an external factor that you couldn't have accounted for that influenced that in a different direction. And the other way, if you just kind of blindly buy something because XYZ YouTuber is giving you financial advice and it turns out well, that doesn't mean that it was a good decision. It was basically just a gamble that happened to turn out well. And I want to explain this kind of idea with the illusion of control bias. I'm just going to pull out some cards as I'm talking. So the illusion of control bias states that people tend to overestimate their ability to control events and outcomes, and it's used to justify a gambling behavior. So imagine somebody wins the lottery, right? They win the lottery and they start telling all their friends to buy lottery tickets because it really works. I did it. I bought a lottery ticket, and look at me now. I'm a billionaire. You should buy one too. It's a very simplistic way to view what actually happened. They're basically they're not putting any stock in the exorbitant luck it took for that to happen, and they're basically saying, oh, I did it and it worked, so it's from my doing, essentially. And they're putting stock in themselves, but they're not accounting for the insane external factor that had to happen for that to even become true. And obviously this is a very extreme example with a lottery ticket because the odds are 1 in however many million to win. But even with Pokemon and sports cards and stuff, if you bought that card, because I benefit from this a lot, and I have to kind of struggle with this because I've been in the hobby since about 2007, so I'm lucky enough to have had this collection accumulating for well over 10 years, almost 15 years before these massive booms. So I was on the front end of that, and I had a lot of things that benefited from that increase in price. But I wasn't some genius for doing that. That was entirely luck. And sure, there is some element of skill and knowledge you need. I don't want to make that claim there isn't. If you were buying some random non-hollow rares or something in 2014, you wouldn't do nearly as well as if you were buying WotC hollows and stuff like that for pennies on the dollar. So obviously the quality of the thing you choose to pull the trigger on definitely influences your outcome. But the expression, a rising tide raises all boats, in general, if you did anything in the hobby before 2020, you came out pretty well. So I see a lot of people, people that have YouTube channels too, and I've probably said something like this along the lines of this too, and it's a very short-sighted thing to say, but a lot of people come onto these platforms and they think that because they had this external factor benefit them greatly, that they're like a genius in the hobby, and then they just start doling out financial advice left and right, and it can really cause a lot of damage, not only to other people but also to you. And no, I've struggled with this a bit. Luckily, not as much as I could have. But if one decision you make has a positive outcome, you can think, oh, like, I know what I'm doing, and then you can make a series of very poor financial decisions after that, based on the data of that one outcome. And and that's where like the whole you use it to justify gambling behavior. Like, oh, I bought this booster box in 2016 and forgot about it, and then it 20x'd, so I'm gonna buy a bunch of them in 2021 and see what happens. Like, you've used a very black swan event to now base future decisions off of, which can get very hairy, it can get very messy, and it just, I don't know, it's something that you need to at least think about. And so, like I said, I benefited from this, and a lot of other YouTubers too. I know one person that talked about it was Jake from Pokenomics. He actually kind of talked about a similar thing where he's like, yeah, I was buying gold stars when they were a tenth of the price, and I thought they were undervalued compared to how his emotion valued them, but he didn't predict anything like this would happen. This was him being in the right place at the right time. And so one thing I want to make clear is that I'm not trying to say that every outcome is luck in this hobby. I mentioned a little bit earlier, but you can absolutely use your knowledge to succeed. If you notice, it's just about the degree of confidence that people have based off of one right decision. Like, you can absolutely, through arbitrage and market speculation, do well, but you still have to recognize that there are a lot of elements that you can't control, that you basically just have to hope happen. Like, you can make a lot of money in this hobby by buying raw singles online and gridding them and flipping those graded cards, because some people aren't willing to do that work, and then there is a market discrepancy because of that you can profit off of. Same thing with like holding sealed product. A lot of people do it, but not everybody is keeping a case of whatever booster box in their closet. But in 5 years, someone might say, hey, I want to open that box. They're gonna have to pay a premium, and that premium is going to be profit for you. So there are definitely ways to make money, but the main concern that I have is people are overly confident and don't account for any external factors in that. And it can cause them to make poor decisions down the line. Like I said, they make that one good decision, that one home run, and they had the help of Logan Paul and COVID to be a really good tailwind for that decision. And they use that to create a series of poor decisions, not understanding that at some points in this hobby, it was flat for over a decade. I was in the hobby in 2006, 2007, all the way up through Heart Gold, Soul Silver, Black and White. There was almost no movement on anything. And it's very possible that we could enter another one of those periods. So if you use what you've experienced during COVID and try and extrapolate that out to now, it could end poorly. We could still be in an awesome position. Things can go up in value and stuff like that, but it's also possible that it doesn't happen. So you have to be prepared for that. And another thing I want to talk about is other hobbies. So I think Pokemon as a whole is just very lucky. Like, even if you were buying cards in general in like 2005, but you weren't buying Pokemon, you wouldn't see those same returns. I could have looked at all of the trading card companies out there and collectible cards out there, and I could have said, you know what, I'm gonna put all my money into Star Wars. It's a super strong IP, they have tons of media coming out, and I think it's gonna go up a lot in the future. I could have used all my data and made a very intelligent decision to buy Star Wars over Pokemon, but there's some things I couldn't have foreseen that would cause Pokemon to multiply exponentially more. than Star Wars. Star Wars did very well still, but like you could have said, oh, Halo is one of the most popular shooters of all time, and these are some sketch cards from this hobby. I think these are going to go way up in value, so I'm going to buy these in 2015, and they would have maybe doubled in the time that Pokemon 100x. Like, you can make an intelligent decision and still end up poorly, and like I said earlier, at the same time you can do the reverse. So this is more just like just a discussion on this kind of philosophy. Have you noticed this at all when you were buying things? Did you because I actually made this mistake too a few times during the COVID boom. I got swept up in things, and I was paying more for things because I was looking and I was like, oh, it went up so much in value, I gotta get it now. And that was a horrible decision. Thankfully it was on very small items, so it wasn't like I had to foreclose my house, but still, like, I was caught up in some element of hype too. So it happens to everybody. But yeah, let me know, have you experienced that? And what do you think about this whole like correlation versus causation thing? Do you think people are touting themselves as investing geniuses for buying this cardboard when, it was just luck of the draw? Let me know what you think. See ya. Bye.